So as per the agenda, the first order of business is members present, and I will read off that the members of the Scribner Board of Trustees who are present are Lisa Rollins, Walter Durack, Dave Toth, and then Amanda Loud, myself. The second item I would like to insert that's not on the agenda is that Susan McLeod has had to resign as a Scribner trustee. I have a copy of her resignation letter that I can show for purposes of the minutes and record, that as of Monday, July 20th, she will no longer be a resident of Ashland and therefore must resign as a member of the Planning Board, Memorial Park Trustees, and the Scribner Trustees. In the last 11 years, I am grateful to have had the opportunity to serve on several boards and committees for the town of Ashland, and have worked with the other residents who have made the commitment of their time and talents to work on behalf of all who call Ashland their home. Sincerely, Susan McLeod. So, Susan was a Board of Selectmen appointed Scribner, so filling her position is the purview of the BOS, and we are a quorum without her, so we wish her well and are very regretful of her absence, but we shall persevere. She was a great member to have had. The July minutes. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the July minutes? Okay, so I move then that we accept the July minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
And any discussion? I have to do a roll call vote for the purposes of a remote meeting. Walter Durack?
Aye.
Dave Toth?
Aye.
Lisa Rollins?
Aye.
And Amanda Loud votes aye as well, so the minutes have passed. Going into the financial status, our financial report, the current value of the trust, I just looked tonight, is $95,742.85. We took $5,000 out of the trust last month and put it into our checking account in order to pay upcoming bills, plumbing, roofing. It's not going to cover all of that, but it'll get down payments and pay some bills for now. The current balance of the checking account at Meredith Village, and I called and checked on that today, and it is $5,972.53 for the checking. Walter, would you like to make any comments about the current status of moving funds out of Wells Fargo and into Vanguard?
Sure. Last week, I submitted an application to establish a trust fund with Vanguard. I established that account with a co-signer, and once the account is established, we can add the remaining trustees as co-signers. The trust account application takes 5 to 7 business days to review, provided they don't have any questions. Included in the application was a copy of Emma Scribner's will, I believe it was the town warrant article that established the Scribner trustees, a few documents after the 1936 will that established the trustees and verified their existence, as well as the current slate of trustees. Once that account is established, I'll be able to move everything from Wells Fargo in kind, which means everything we currently have at Wells Fargo in that trust fund's investment portfolio will move over, and then we'll be able to start changing elections and positions once we're in Vanguard.
Okay.
The application was pretty straightforward, and I think it's going to go smoothly. If I don't hear anything by the end of this week from Vanguard, one way or another, I will call them the beginning of next week to confirm that the application has been approved, or if there are any questions that they get resolved ASAP.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions about anything Walter said or what's going on? Okay, just make sure we're all in the same plane.
Yep, and for the record, I did confirm that we were charged approximately $1,000 in management fees over the last year. So
Yeah.
that will be an immediate savings.
Yes, yeah. Okay, thank you. The next thing on the agenda are maintenance updates. The electrical, Dow Electric was at the building yesterday, and he replaced the the exit light on the second floor that was not working. And so FYI, there is now electricity to the second floor as well. So Sarah, you can turn on the light switch, you know, and run on the stairs and everything. It's all as it should be now. And he also fixed an exit light by the front door of the library, and by looking at it, you won't see that anything changed, but apparently it didn't work. Even though it looked like it was on, it didn't work. He also said that all of the 11 smoke detectors, and I think there's 5 heat detectors, are not individual, but they are connected to the fire alarm system. And that is something that Walter is taking care of with the fire alarm system. So that they are antiquated. United Fire Safety said they needed to be replaced. And so it's going to happen not with the electrician, but with the fire alarm servicing. The roof is set to begin in September, October, late September, October. That's still a go. That will have a cost of around $7,000. I'll have to put $3,500 down before, you know, when he starts, and the rest upon completion. Plumber is coming tomorrow. I will meet him at the building at 7:30 in the morning. Squam Lakes Plumbing is going to change the toilet in the bathroom so that it will not overflow. And it's a different kind of toilet. And they're going to put the sprinkler system going up to the second floor. It will be an external system. I can't say that it's going to be something beautiful that we'll all want to have done in our home when we see it, but it will allow the second floor to be occupied. I saw Chief Heath one day when I was sitting on the wall of Main Street in Pleasant, and he drove by and went to Squam Plumbing and talked to the installer there to be sure that the spigots, the heads are spaced appropriately, because I told Chief Heath that if this thing goes in and we still can't use the second floor, I'm going to be extremely hard to live with because of the price. It's going to cost $2,000.77 tomorrow to have that done. Lawn care, I'm going to skip down to lawn care. I talked to Craig Moore and he had his crew there. He was extremely generous about mowing the lawn. And I said, you know, look, we just want it mowed. We're in a drought. You know, mow it at some point in August, please. Mow it at some point in September. We're not out to get a gardening award on this. We're just trying to do the best we can and save some money. I did cancel our account with Mason Enterprise. They have been, that company has been extremely generous in mowing our lawn at a discount at the library, and we certainly appreciate that. Ray Mason was also, you know, more than happy to have some time up in his schedule for another client as well. So it did work very, you know, well for us on both sides. So the town, Craig, you know, had graciously agreed to mow this lawn in August and September. I said, we'll kind of deal with October, you know, how it happens. And going forward, this will be something we'll have to work out, you know, I believe for next year, for 21, you know, just exactly what the timeline is going to be of the maintenance, but it does appear that the town, you know, will be taking over the lawn care, which saves us about $1,100 a year. Walter, I'm going to turn over now the other 2 items that say key safe and fire alarm to you, if you'd like to give a quick update on both of those.
Sure. The key safe is at my house. I need to find a few minutes to go over and mount it. That's going to be near the door at the back of the building by Pleasant Street. That's the best access for the fire department. The chief had let me know that when I placed the order through the fire department for the box. And once the box is installed, he'll come by, inspect it, make sure that it's to his satisfaction. If it is, he'll put the key inside, lock it, and let me know when that's done. But before I go over there, I will email all the trustees as well as Sarah for the library and just let them know that one day they might come in and see it there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to go in the building to mount it. It's all from the outside.
Okay.
Fire alarm, I'm going to be calling Stanley and making sure that I can add librarians and the fire department as authorized users on the account. So right now it is the Scribner trustees who are the authorized users. But if there's an alarm activation in the middle of the day, somebody burns a bag of popcorn in the microwave, I want to make sure that librarians can call in and report that it, is in fact a false alarm. And I'm also going to talk to them about how we go about changing the smokes and heats that are antiquated. It may be as simple as a local contractor, but it's probably going to require we shut the system down while it's done. So it should best while it's not occupied. But again, I'll find that out when I talk to the alarm monitoring company.
Great, thank you. One thing as a point of record for the minutes, I did fail to mention who else is here at the meeting besides those of us who are Scribner trustees. We have David Rule, we have Sarah Weinberg is present, Alice Staples and Marty Badger, as well as Kathleen DeWolf. Did I miss anybody? I just realized.
Should the minutes reflect that Kathleen's our lurker?
Yeah, Kathleen has introduced herself and said she would only be lurking. So, but we accept, it's a public meeting and we do accept both lurkers and non-lurkers to our meetings. So,
Okay, girls.
Did you get all of that, Lisa? Do you need me to?
I got it all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
The next thing I have, I do want to make note, this was things mentioned in the July minutes. I did find a small envelope of skeleton keys, which did appear to go to the cabinet up in the Scribner room upstairs. I have handed that off to the librarians at the library, to Sarah. Also, did you get that, Sarah? You should have found that pocket, that envelope.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we're good on that.
May I interject for a sec?
Yes.
Thank you.
Did the librarians, did you find the basement key that I left on the desk? It would have been the 4th of July weekend. I had a copy made, so now.
Yes.
Okay, that key also opens the door at the top of the stairs to the upstairs.
Thank you for letting us know that. I did not realize that before.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I have a feeling, and this is all going to be up to Chief Heath, of course, but I have a feeling that once we get that, the exit fire, the sprinkler system on the stairs, that we can take that door down that's at the top of the stairs. Because let me tell you, it's a scary thing to go from, up the stairs and try to get into the Scribner room.
Sure.
So my understanding, but that will be Chief Heath's call, not mine, because it's a fire safety issue. Okay, I have asbestos abatement down on maintenance updates, and I'd like to take that and go right into oil tank repair. Now, here's the situation. I had Pemmy Fuels come over, and let me start putting stuff up on a share screen real quick. I cannot talk and do this at the same time, so just a minute. Okay, I think this is what I want to look at. I had Pemmy as you remember last meeting. If I can hit my screen share, we'll be in business. Okay. As you remember at our last meeting, I was authorized to find out what was going on with the oil tank, because we did know from Tom Peters' resignation letter that there appeared to be something wrong with the oil tank, and that he said in his letter that he and Rick Perret were going to dig around it and whatever. So I called Pemmy Fuels, because Pemmy has been the oil supplier for the past many years at the library, and I got them to write out what was going on. What Tom said in his letter that had to do with the oil tank, he got that information, I have since discovered, from Rob at Pemmy Fuels, who is the man that I talked to. I learned an awful lot about the oil tank that morning. Now, what has happened to the oil tank is it is, number one, it is buried. Okay, so bad. Yeah, they don't want oil tanks buried. It was also buried over 40 years ago. And it was buried by, the fuel company that's out on Tenny Mountain down there. It's got a street named after it. Ooh. Can't think of it.
Yeton.
You're talking about Denton?
Yetton buried it 40 plus years
Yetton,
ago.
right, and Yetton is Pemmy Fuels now.
Oh, well, now this is making a lot more sense. Okay, thank you. So
Pemmy
anyway,
Fuels, Yetton's retired.
okay, there we go. So anyway, Rob went and talked to retired Yetton, who remembers burying it. So we've got that part of the history is what my point is very clear, very accurate. Now, what is wrong with the oil tank is that when it has a pipe that goes up from the tank, and that's where the oil is put into. You know, it's the spigot that they fill. However, when they fill an oil tank, it's not like filling gas in your car. It has a very long pipe that they put down that actually goes inside that long pipe for a good 2-3 feet. It's a big pipe. And then the oil goes down into the tank from there. Now, I'm pointing out this because we have at the library, there are 2 pinholes that have been found that one day when the man was delivering oil to the building, he found 2 pinholes in the big external spigot pipe that's on the property that goes down into the oil tank. Now, the problem with this, and I think there was a misunderstanding by former trustees, the problem with this is not that oil is leaking. The problem is that water can now get into the tank because there are pinholes in this down towards the bottom, down at the ground level. There are pinholes in this big pipe that's sticking out from the ground. And when they deliver the oil, their pipe goes all the way down into our pipe. So that's not the issue of any oil leaking out. But when it rains or when the snow melts and there's water on the ground, it can seep now into our pipe. So I guess I just said in far more words than they did what was going on. It has a rotting filler valve, that's the technical term, and found at least 2 pinholes in which could lead to a potential oil leak. Well, potential oil leak, it's really more of a problem of water getting in, right? Rob said. So anyway, here's our situation. We have a few strikes going against us. Strike number 1, we've got a buried tank. Ideally, the tank needs to come out of the ground because we don't know how much longer the integrity of this tank will last. It could begin leaking oil underground, and we're not going to know that because it's buried. Now, the second problem we have is that when I had Bob from Excel Mechanical, he is the same man who did the oil tanks at the fire station. Bob from Excel Mechanical came over and I gave him the whole 9 yards about let's put some oil tanks in the basement, which is the same thing that Squam Plumbing gave us a bid on. As I remember, that bid was $4,747.60. So it was like almost $5,000 to put 2 oil tanks in the basement. So I asked Bob, what are you going to charge us to put 2 oil tanks down in the basement? And he took a look at the basement and he said, I am not going to touch this job until you get rid of this asbestos. And I said, what? So there is asbestos around the pipes down there that are right by the furnace. And I know there's asbestos, David, in a lot of other places. I have seen parts of this library now that I really will never be able to unsee in my life. And it's been a summer. So anyway, the next phone call I made and the next person I waited for on the corner of Main Street and Pleasant was called, their name is All Demolition and Asbestos Services. And he came down and he said, oh yeah, there it all is. And the reason that Bob from Excel Mechanical would not have anything to do with putting in oil tanks until the asbestos was remediated was because, or abated, was because he didn't want to take the liability of brushing up against this stuff and letting out, asbestos is fine if you just don't touch it. But once it gets touched and the filaments get airborne, particularly in what is basically a commercial building, I mean, it's a publicly occupied building, then it gets really a problem. So anyway, I called and had this asbestos bid, and Ernest started putting on his big suit and started crawling up underneath the building. And I said, now, wait. I said, can you take your bid so that you outline like what we need to do just to get the tanks. I know that there's asbestos running all underneath the building on the pipes, around the corner, back where that dentist chair is, everything. So let me see if I can get that. Scribner. Okay, it must be, I must have put it under maintenance. Did I put it in here? Yeah, here it is. And so here came the, no, oh yeah, here came the price, which was about 7,000. But what I wanted to note, no, this must not be, that must be all of their paperwork showing that they're all insured. Hold on. What I wanted to show about the price, which I think is very important for the library trustees to see, is that he outlined what it would cost, and I'm hoping you all can see this, what it would cost. It says this proposal does not include all asbestos. Okay, so this bid, which is $6,600, $6,670, is only for abating the asbestos where the furnace is, just in that area. Protective transmite boards above the furnace will be left. Crawl space and back rooms are not included, so they need to be done at some point. This additional TSI and other rooms should be removed, da 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 da. So in other words, this is just to do by the furnace. And I said, well, what do you think? And he gave me an off-the-cuff number. He said, we're probably looking at somewhere around close to 20,000 to do everything that needs to be done, which is when I said, okay, now back away from the crawl spaces, stop this. And what do we have to do just to put oil tanks in? Now, Bob, I called Bob again today from Excel Mechanical, and he will give me his bid. We have a bid from Squam Lakes, which is for about $5,000 to put in new tanks. Bob has not given me his bid yet. He said he would give me his number by the end of the week. And his number is also going to include digging out the oil tank. Now, how much oil is in the tank is something that Bob wanted to know. And the best of my records, I called and talked to Pemi Fuels, and it seems as though beginning in 2019, the trustees began to have only $200 delivered at a time, and it is 200 gallons delivered at a time, and it is a 1,000 gallon tank. So they've used about 900 gallons a year in 19 and 18. I am just making a guess that there's probably somewhere around 300 gallons in that tank. If I had to make a guess, I don't think there's any more than 300 gallons in that tank. Now, here's where it all kind of hits the fan. If we want to replace the oil tanks, we're probably talking at spending somewhere around $15,000. We're talking about $7,000 for the asbestos abatement. We're talking about another, I don't know what Bob's number is going to be, $5,000 was Squam Lakes plumbing for the 2 new tanks. Then that's $12,000. So, let's put in another 3 because who knows what's going to happen. So we're probably talking around $3,000. And I'm not real sure that will necessarily include getting rid of the buried tank. It may still be in the ground, but it just will not be used. It's going to have to be pumped. But as I said, I doubt there's any more than 300 gallons of oil. I'd be very surprised if there's even that much oil in it. There could be water in that tank on top of the oil, which could complicate matters, but the oil would be on top of the water. So there you go. Now, having said that, here's the next proposition. I talked to Craig Moore when he was out there looking at the lawn, and I said, I've got a buried oil tank. And he said, oh, I told him the whole problem with the valve, the rotted valve and the pinholes and da-da-da. And he said, oh, this is no problem. We can take this and we can, my men, we can dig around this. This is no problem. We can dig it and we can replace the valve, replace the pipe. Now, on the Pemi Fuels letter, he did state that would be, it's not ideal, but going back here to the oil tank letter from Pemi Fuels, which I hope you can see. Can you see this? Okay. He did say, the tech did explain that the owner, property manager, or other individual would be able to dig down to the tank and replace the filler pipe. Now, what needs to happen is that the tank needs to be out of the ground. We need to have new tanks. We need asbestos abated. And let me tell you something else. When I was down there, like I've said, I have seen parts of this building, and I'm looking and I go, hey, look, is that daylight? And then I looked a little closer. Wow, look at the car go by. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's got a hole. Like, I'm not worried about mice. I'm worried about possums coming in and coyotes. And, you know, oh my gosh, this thing is huge. So what I was thinking, this is my idea. My idea is to go before the Board of Selectmen, and we are tentatively, I put us, as soon as I heard Craig say he could do this, and I got this letter from Pemi Fuels, I stuck us on the agenda for next week, August 17th. Tentatively, I said we may cancel, but I want us to have our foot in the door. My suggestion is that we have to ask the town to have Craig and his men replace the filler valve. Now, this is not the best fix for it. It is a short-term fix, and it doesn't cost us any money. Craig even thought that he had the piping at his shop and everything to do this. It was not going to be a big deal. And while Craig is there and they're digging all of this stuff around, because they have to dig down, and Craig said, you know, the great thing about him doing it is he could get down there and go, oh my gosh, you ought to see the state of this tank. You know, let's all take 10 steps back, you know, and cry, which is something that would be kind of nice. I mean, we wouldn't be able to see, you know, a 360 of the tank, but we would certainly get a good idea of at least what the top part of it looks like, you know. And while Craig is there, you know, I would see if he could, you know, maybe put 3 or 4 feet of dirt on the other side of the building so we can keep, you know, critters out. I mean, I just couldn't believe. I thought, oh my gosh, it's daylight. And I started looking at cars going by. So this is a huge hole. But I think it would he could also, you know, berm that hole up, you know, so at least we could stop. I'm not even worried about insulating the building with that. I'm just trying to keep stuff out. So anyway, I wanted I wanted the library here because, you know, our goal in life is that this is going to be your problem. And you need to know, you know, that there have been this asbestos bid has come in, that the full abatement will be around $20,000 at some future date, that the price of putting in new oil tanks will probably be around $15,000. You know, I think high when I want to think numbers instead of lowballing stuff. And that, you know, my proposal before the Scribner board today is that we just kind of stick a Band-Aid on this and give about a 3 to 5 year fix on the oil tank, you know, barring finding, you know, some catastrophe once, you know, Craig starts digging around. That if this works, it works, but it is not a permanent solution by any stretch of the imagination. I am very hesitant to spend a lot of money on this because, as Walter pointed out with the college, you know, they put in these new oil tanks and then lo and behold, they did a redesign and the oil tanks all had to be moved. So I would just kind of like to keep things moving in a forward direction. And then at a short-term future point, when the library trustees are changing things for the better, this is obviously going to have to be addressed. But I think that it's best addressed at a time when there's a larger plan in place. So I'm going to make a motion just so we can begin more discussion and I can shut up for a while. I move that we ask the town of Ashland to have the DPW department simply fix the filler valve on the tank as a short-term solution. Do I have a second? And this is just to get us to discussion.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Now, is there any discussion?
Can we join in that, or the library trustees.
I would love to hear from everyone. I mean, ultimately, the vote is going to rest with the Scribners, but we asked you here today because we are interested in hearing from you as well.
Well, I have another point to make.
Okay.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, go ahead. Rule.
Well, I mean, our main problem with the building is it's not big enough. So if we're staying there, we need an addition. And if we need an addition, we have to wonder if that furnace is going to handle, you know, tripling the size of the space to be heated, you know. So, and when you start looking at the furnace, you begin to wonder, do we want to continue to have oil heat or not? Mm-hmm. That's a big question. So if you invest a lot of money in oil tanks and asbestos, and that's just money that we may just toss away in a few years. Mm-hmm. We may switch to some other heating system, probably in the addition, and then you have spent a lot of this money on oil tanks. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And asbestos. The asbestos itself is not a danger to the public or the staff, because the public and the staff don't go down there.
Right. As long as you leave it alone, you just don't touch it, you're fine. Yes.
Don't get it.
Right.
So
what's that?
I would think that it would be going with your motion of to ask the town, because that's only a 3 to 5 year fix. Yeah. Then at that point it's the, well, I don't want to say it's the library's problem. It's
their purview. It's their purview.
Right. It's up to them to, you know, whatever they're going to spend the money on for their enlargements or whatever they need, then, you know, this is just a temporary Band-Aid for that particular situation.
It is, yeah.
And you know, it does preserve some more of the trust fund.
Yes, it does. Dave, did you have anything? Yes.
I see this as even being part of a larger discussion because of the information that we've gotten from the AG's office about dissolving the trust.
Yes.
Walter's comments about
the principle.
If everybody's,
well, that's kind of going into the next thing I wanted to talk about. Yeah. The oil tank.
I think that's got to influence how much we go forward and spend on this building, because you know, our assumption was that the principal was the original principal of 40,000 and
40,005 is very 40,005.
As we've been talking, you know, as Amanda's been writing to people, and we find out that, well, actually the principal is the original principal plus whatever has accrued on that. Yeah. And so I guess it was Walter estimated that the actual principal should be about $485,000. And that the trustees, the previous trustees, should have only been spending the interest, and not the dividends or whatever,
or a smaller percentage of the interest, a smaller
percentage of the interest. And I'm not sure what position that puts us in about how much money we can actually take from the accounts now and spend.
Yeah.
So just because of that, the free fix of the oil tank seems to be the way to go.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, for me, the larger question is this building really worth spending another dime on?
Right.
And shouldn't the town be considering, you know, purchasing the Tri-County Cap building instead of even considering doing a renovation and an enlargement to this building with all of the problems that need to be fixed here?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's probably the way to go, and I think we should be as as frugal as we possibly can.
Yeah.
So that we can go ahead and dissolve this trust and have that money go to the library.
Yeah.
And then the library can put it towards the new building or whatever they want to do with it. But
Now, and I'm not arguing with you. I have a couple of points to make. First of all, the Attorney General's office in the last letter, and that's going into the next thing we're going to talk about, but we're going to have to resolve the oil tank first, but kind of skipping ahead for a minute. As far as how much we can dissolve the trust itself, my personal hope has always been to hand cold hard cash to the library. However, it appears that we may not be able to do that, but we may be able to hand over a trust for which we are no longer the trustees, or that is in the hands of the library. Now, at that point, if we're handing over an amount of principal that remains in trust for the library, well, then again, that doesn't mean that the library will have 50,000. I don't know how much you do. Let's say 50,000. It doesn't mean the library will have 50,000 to spend. In fact, 50,000, if you want to take, a rule of thumb is 3% a year, so they'll get 15. No, they'll get 1,500 a year that they can spend. 1,500 a year. $1,500 would be 3% of 50,000. So we all know that $1,500 ain't gonna go real far. It might buy your heating oil if you keep the thermostat down. So as far as, I have also thought, Dave, very hard about what Walter said. This accrued interest is the problem. That's the term that the Attorney General's office used for what the principal would be. It's not $40,475.70, but it's that plus accrued interest. Now, I can't believe I'm saying this on a recorded meeting, but sometimes it's just an awful lot easier to say, oops, I'm sorry, than to try to avoid it. I think if we do not spend past 40,500, that, the amount of accrued interest, I think at this point is just so far beyond what we're going to be able to sustain and try to keep, the building functional. The roof is leaking, we're not remodeling the inside. I don't know what, I'm sure, Walter, there must be a mathematical formula to figure out what accrued interest should be on this. And I do understand that having it go back to 1939 or 37 or whenever it is not to our advantage.
No.
Really far back. But there must be some kind of, I'm just thinking that there has to be that legal must use some kind of formula, because we're not the only ones that have ever been in this position. Right. And so I guess as far as spending, I'm certainly not out to spend money. I mean, I've said from day one, I think as soon as I became a Scribner trustee, I walked up to Sarah Weinberg and said, don't ask for anything because you're not going to get it. I was just so freaked out by what the balance was. And Sarah said, we never asked for anything. And I said, well, that's good because I'm not going to give it to you. So I'm just kind of, I think we should go forward with a very Band-Aid approach on this oil tank. As far as what the town decides to do about the building, we cannot sell the building. The town cannot sell a gift. So the town has the building. The town has the building forever, unless the town votes to tear it down and turn it into a park. Now, this, I
coincidentally, do we know the square footage of the building?
Oh, I saw it once. Somewhere around 1,700, 1,800.
I had that the other day. Let me see if I can find it.
Well, usable space was like 1,200, but that discounts some.
I'd need the gross square footage.
Oh, both stories? Or do you include basements or what?
Yeah.
Basement and third floor.
Oh, that's right. There's an attic.
Okay, I'm looking.
2,265 square feet.
Okay.
That's both.
That's probably just that's 2 stories, though.
So
the main floor is 1,245.
Okay.
That's our usable. That's our, yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So I'm just, all right.
Whoever has a barking dog would please mute your phone, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. So going back to the oil tank, let's kind of resolve one thing, and because it does everything ultimately with this, the building all kind of becomes one big giant problem. But let's resolve the oil tank. So there's a motion now to take it before the Board of Selectmen to ask the DPW to change the fill pipe as a short-term fix on this. That motion has been seconded. So I am going to now call for a vote if there is no more discussion. Any more discussion? Okay, so I will do this now by roll call. Lisa Rollins.
Aye, we're getting some feedback on the
We are.
Zoom here.
Okay, Walter Durrell
Aye.
and Dave Toth.
Aye.
And Amanda Loud also votes in the affirmative. So that has been carried. So we are now, and this is, you know, I said I could cancel, but I'm not going to cancel. So we will be before the BOS next Monday, and we will ask the BOS to direct DPW to do this for us. I think it's a good short-term fix. Now,
And when you say we, you mean you?
I'll do it. Yeah, sure. I mean, you're welcome to come. Everybody else is welcome to come too. I mean, you can only one of us can talk at a time, you know.
That's right.
So now let's go to the Scribner proposal, which is, oh, I wanted to also say, I forgot to put in when I was talking about maintenance updates, I have written down, I talked about the skeleton keys and we kind of got off on keys, but the records, the Scribner records from 2015, 16, 17, and 18, and 19 are all at Town Hall. Patsy has limited space up on the 3rd floor, and she said just bring 15 on and beyond over and leave 14 back at the library. And they are still there in the Scribner room. They are packed in boxes. They are labeled by years. I talked to Craig. I found I spent over 6 hours up in that room going through the records and packing them away. So it certainly wasn't done in a haphazard manner. And I found, like I said, I have things that I will never be able to unsee. And there's also about 3 boxes of phone bills that go back to about 1960 and stuff like that. And so, oh yeah, you have no idea. So anyway, Craig said that when we get to a point, I'm not quite at that point yet. There's some matters that I'd like to have resolved first, but when we get to that point of getting rid of some of these antiquated records that we are not obligated by law to keep, Craig was very generous to say, you know, they come and get the trash there on Monday mornings at about 7 a.m. and they would be glad to haul a couple of boxes at a time for me. So when that time comes, I will just meet them at 7 a.m. on the Monday mornings, but the phone bills will probably be the first to go. But anyway, the library is not being used at this time. It is not open to the public, so that buys me a little bit of time. If those records are still there when it is open to the public, they are easily put away in a closet so that the room would be usable. So there's about probably about 7 or 8 boxes. It's not, you know, hundreds and hundreds. Okay, very good. Having said that, let's go to the Scribner proposal, and that includes letters from the Attorney General's office. So let me get that screen share going up. I sent to you, you know, the Attorney General's response when I sent him several questions that had to do with what can we and can we not do to get rid of the Scribner Trust, to get rid of the Scribner Trustees, you know, and what would be the process. So here is his answer, as you all know, to the first letter. Says the Scribner Trust was created by the will of Emma Scribner. It was accepted by the town, not created by the town, and it can only be amended or terminated through a petition filed with the probate court. Okay, so it's nothing that the town can vote on. It has to be all go through the court. However, the AG's office, and I think it's very important to point out, seemed very positive about it, felt that it made sense for it to be terminated. And then the trust funds used this. We're going to talk a little bit more about this in another letter. So I am kind of glancing through the stuff. The second one I think has more information for us. The trust funds are are to be used per the 1970 court decree to maintain the building and park. And then it talked about, does the library take care of the park now, meaning the grounds? And of course, I think moving ground care to the town now at this time could be very positive in helping us to dissolve the trust and the trustees, of making the trust no longer burdened with that ground, maintenance care. And then the third, oh, I was still upset about the stipends, and nothing could be done because of the uniqueness of the trust. So let me, now I think the letter that has the most meat in it now for us to discuss is this other one. Hold on just a moment. I sent another letter to Tom Donovan at the Attorney General's office. And I said, could you please explain a little bit more, when you said, oh, you need to do this and that. And I said, well, how do you do this and that? And so my further answer to your question, the trustees of the Scribner court, I think means board, would file a petition drafted by town council to terminate the trust because it's no longer practical to maintain it to fulfill Ms. Scribner's intent. Now, when he talks about terminating the trust, that includes the trustees. This is kind of a package deal. It's not a matter of we have a separate corpus of funds and then a board. It's the whole thing would be dissolved, okay? It would be filed pursuant to RSA, The Scribner trustees should vote to do so. So we need to have a vote to do this in our minutes. And I believe the selectmen should as well. The BOS would also vote to do this, okay? And then the town's legal counsel would handle the actual drafting. So the point of this, I'll keep reading this through for record. They would show us a draft and we may have comments on specifics. Then it would get filed with the court. The court would issue orders of notice. We would get served with it. Then we would work with town council on a proposed order to the court to terminate the trust and describe where the proceeds would go, library, and what restrictions would exist on those proceeds. So I believe that the last sentence there is what I hinted out before, saying that we may not be able to hand the library cold hard cash, but a trust. But the long and short of it is we would hand, the important thing is that we would hand it to the library and it would no longer be a trustee of the trust funds thing. And there would no longer be any Scribners managing the building. It would be the library trustees managing the building. So it says, as stated above, the trust cannot be dissolved without a court order. And then here was the problem about the deferred maintenance and the what is the principle. So that, okay, that's not my problem. I mean, I look at something like that and say, that's just way above my pay grade. And I know what I can and can't do, and that's legal's problem. So it says that, work with town council and she'll know the document and da-da-da-da-da. So what we need to do, as far as I understand this, and if you are seeing other things that I'm not seeing, you need to tell me. But what my understanding is, there's really not a whole lot that any one of us at this meeting can do to dissolve the trust and the Scribners. It all has to be sent to legal. And all we can do is that we Scribners need in our minutes to make a proposal, a motion that says we vote to dissolve the Scribner Trust and Board of Trustees and to send this to legal in order to do so. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to have a draft of this, and this draft is going to be like 3 to 5 sentences. It's just not going to say a lot because there's nothing we can do. This isn't going to a warrant article. We might put a warrant article on in March simply to show town support for this, but that would be something that legal would say we should do. There's really not a lot of decisions for us to make other than the Scribner board to make a motion, second it and vote, and we're done. So my plan, and please interject if you have another idea or something to add to this. My plan is that I would write up this draft, which would probably be all of about 3 sentences. We want to dissolve this. We're going to ask the town to send it to legal. And our desire is that it go to the benefit of the library. Boom, done. I would have that draft to my fellow Scribners no later than September 7th. Our next meeting is September 14th. At the September 14th meeting, we could then, in our minutes, vote that we accepted this proposal to send to the Board of Selectmen. We would then send that proposal to the library trustees. And the library trustees, you need to return that to us, having been amended or accepted by you for our meeting, which would be October 12th. Now, we Scribners would then take this proposal that the library trustees have either seconded, or said, no, let's add this to it. And then we would finalize it. And then we would take it, and we are already on the agenda. We would take it to the October 19th BOS meeting. And I've already put us on that October 19th agenda. It's very hard to get on a BOS agenda. So that's the timeline I've worked out that, we'd have at our next meeting on September 14th, we would have a draft for us all to look at, for the Scribners to look at, to amend as we see fit, to vote, to dissolve the trust and the Scribners, and to ask the BOS to send us to legal to do so before probate court. And then we would send what we finalize at our September 14th meeting to the library trustees. You all would need to meet and vote on it and get it back to us by October 12th. It'd be about a month. And then we would take it the following week to the BOS. Does anyone have any questions, any ideas, anything that I might have missed that would make this work better?
I have a question.
Yes.
The Scribner money is, by the will, tied to the property.
Yes.
I mean, to Emma Scribner's property.
Yes.
So if the library were to leave the property, go somewhere better.
Yeah, you wouldn't get it.
You wouldn't get it, right? So how does this process, where you'd have to go through it again? And
well, no, I don't
mean,
think
the
it would ever
library-
be illegal, because Emma Scribner's will states that if it's not, that building is no longer being used. So I'm saying, what if? What if the town says, oh my gosh, you've got possums living in the basement and everything? I'm like, yeah. And they say, no, we're just going to stop the library being there. We're going to put it somewhere else, whatever. Then the building has to be torn down and used as a park. It becomes a park. And then my understanding in previous every legal opinion I've read on this with the building and the trust says that whatever's left of the trust would be used to tear down the building and to turn it into a park. So you're very right, David. The money stays with the building. The money, it doesn't stay with the library. The money stays with the building.
With the property. It stays
the property.
with the property.
With the property, much better word, yes.
But it still can only be used. It can only be used for the maintenance of the property, in whatever form that might be.
Right.
Okay.
I have another scenario.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to stay on that property, but want to replace that building,
Yes.
could that be done? And could that be assured in whatever legal language is created?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think that would be something that when we draft our proposal to go before legal, and then we Scribners turn that over to the library trustees, that would be something I think that you library trustees may or may not want to add to that. Mm-hmm. I would say that we all need to also understand that taking anything legal, calling legal isn't free. And I think that and this is something that we Scribners need to think about and vote on, but I think we need to be willing to spend some of this trust. And of course, Dave Toth pointed out, well, how much do we have left to spend? And I said, well, let's just maybe say, oops, I'm sorry, instead of, because, this is a problem. But I think we need to be willing, we Scribners need to be willing to spend, to offer, to help pay for the legal fees on what this will incur, because it will cost the town some money to take this before probate court. The thing about taking it before probate court, it is not as though we are fighting a law case. We do not have someone, you know, on the other side causing our fees to increase because they're mad and they want a different settlement. It's a one-way street, which does help curb the cost, but it will not be free. And as we look at the value of the trust, probably after we spend another the roof, $7,000, probably spending about another $10,000 between the roof and the plumbing, and I gotta still have to pay the electrician, maybe $11,000. I don't know how much, $10,000. So now we're going to be down to about 85,000. If the market stays okay. If the market doesn't stay okay, it's less. But I think that if we ended up having to spend even as much as $10,000, I don't think it would cost that much. That's still a very good return on your money for what you would end up getting. Yes.
This would not be, this legal would not be covered by a monthly retainer. This would be extra.
Yes.
So you have to be aware of that. And they don't move that quickly.
Right.
And we'll be approaching budget season, so the more that the town will be sending to legal to review increases around October, November, December.
Yeah.
And there is a faction in town that will push back on doing anything to prevent the library, considering again, but not the library, the public, the voters, to buy the TRICAP building.
Right.
So you do have that negative aspect that's still probably alive in the town, and that could be an impediment.
Right. I think that, you know, again, this is something we Scribners will be discussing at our next meeting, but I think we do need to keep an open mind about, I think, sweetening the pot and offering to pay to help, because as Kathleen pointed out, this would be beyond their monthly retainer fees. You know, it would cost money. If we have to spend $10,000 to get back, you know, if you spend $10,000, you get $40,000 in return. That's a 400% return on your money. You know, you can look at it that way as well. So I just think, you know, I'm just putting it out there that we all understand that it will not be free to do this, but I think it is ultimately in the best interest of the town of Ashland. What happens to the building once there are no more Scribner trustees over the building, you know, well, that's not my problem. I mean, that we can turn it over to the library. It is where the library is housed. You know that if you leave those, that the money goes with the property. And so if you try to go somewhere else, that's fine, but you know, you wouldn't have the building anymore. You wouldn't have any of the funds that are associated with the property. But again, you would be, if you stayed there, you would be managing the building and you would be managing the funds associated with the property.
What I see from all this, and I'm certainly not a lawyer, but we have several problems, and the big problem is that the trust, as it stands right now, we are not going to be able to use the trust to keep this building operating for much longer.
Right.
Especially, I mean, we say, okay, well, we'll spend the money and then say we're sorry. But if you read this, there are some legal questions about whether we can actually spend the money down now that we know that this is the way it's supposed to be done.
Right.
So that's a problem. It says that, you know, the town will present a proposal to the court to terminate the trust and describe where the proceeds will go and what restrictions would exist on those proceeds. Well, we would have to have our lawyer make or the town lawyer make a proposal based on what we really want.
Yes.
and go from there. I would imagine that the court proceedings here would say, okay, you've asked that the money just goes over to the library, and you know, well, we can agree with that, or we could say no, it has to stay with the property because that's what the will says. But I think they would be looking more to do what would be best for the town that's also in keeping with the will.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm guessing from the language here, I'm guessing that that's what's going on. And you know, the fate of the library is in the balance here.
Yes.
And because whether or not, you know, say we decided to do nothing,
Mm-hmm.
we would not be able to keep the library operating just using the Scribner funds.
Right, right.
And so the town would either say, okay, we'll have to just take over, you know, the additional expenses and take care of the building, and or, you know, we're not going to do it, and so that's the end of the building and the library.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think our best option here is to try to dissolve the trust
Yes.
and try to get the best deal we can for using the money for the library in the court proceedings.
Right.
And hopefully that would be enough to either at least maintain the building for a while, and until, you know, the townspeople can decide what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that would probably keep the building operating longer than we could,
Mm-hmm.
the way the trust is structured now.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, I would like to say, I think part of the eventual language, I would like to see that there is some protection that the library can continue to use that property in whatever way, shape, or form is best suited for the library. I would like, and I think to do that, I think we need to have, when it gets to legal, I think we all need to get together at the same time with legal and with the Board of Selectmen to talk about the options to protect the viability of that property for use by the library.
It might be a good idea for all of us, you know, Scribner trustees, library trustees, Board of Selectmen, to sit down with legal counsel.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I can put that in the draft. Mm-hmm.
And discuss this as a first step, and find out what Walter believes would be possible. Because I agree with
Walter, you mean Walter?
The attorney, Walter
Yes,
Mitchell.
So yes,
Walter Mitchell's
people
law.
who don't know, it's not Walter Durat, it's Walter Mitchell of the Mitchell Group.
the town council, whoever.
Town council,
Yeah.
I know we just automatically say Walter, and that just seems some people.
There are too many Walters.
Yeah, I only know two, but I guess that's too many.
So I think I completely agree with you, but again, this kind of goes back down to what do we need to do right now, our timeline. Our timeline is, as I can certainly put in the draft, that we, you know, Scribner trustees, you know, hope that, you know, we and the library trustees and the BOS can all sit down together with town council, you know, as this moves forward. But the only board that can put this toward town's council is the BOS. And so we have to, the first point, of departure is that the Scribners vote to do this and have a draft that we send to the library trustees, who edit, endorse, whatever, send it back to us. We have something final that both of our boards have signed, the library trustees as well as the Scribner trustees. And then we are on the agenda, like I said, at the October, I think it's 19th meeting. And we present it to the BOS, who is the final third wheel in this. And there at that point, we ask them to send it to legal. It's not something that the BOS can make much of a decision on. It has to be done through legal. But I think that as this does move forward, once it hits legal, that we all three boards will be hearing back, because it affects all three of us.
Yes.
And I think the best way to approach this as we go to BOS is that we have this declaration, or whatever we want to call it, that has been endorsed by both boards. So, okay, I guess, I don't think I need a motion or anything right now. I will draft, and it will be very much a draft. It will probably only be 3 to 5 sentences long, because like I said, there's not a lot for us to decide. And this will be on our agenda at our September meeting on the 14th. And then we will finalize that on the 14th, and we will send it to the library trustees, who need to get it back to us by before October 12th.
You could do it by consensus.
Tonight?
That this is your plan.
This is our plan. So there is a consensus to this plan. Do I have a vote for a consensus, or
No, it's just the consensus would reflect that the Scribners and the library trustees are in agreement that a draft will be provided, blah, 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 blah. But you're all there together. You're agreeing to support this, to bring forward, to work on this together.
Okay. Okie dokie.
You're all agreeing to stop this process.
All agreeing to start the process. Who would have ever thunk? My goodness, it's like, it's gonna happen. I think it's
Two
pretty
boards agreeing?
Huh?
Two
I
boards
agree,
agreeing?
just in case
Yes.
you were wondering.
Now let's not start rumors by saying the two boards have been agreeing, okay?
You're meeting, you're speaking to each other.
I know. Oh my gosh. What will they say? Okay, I have nothing else that needs
A new
attention.
era.
A new boy, let's hope, for sure. Does anyone else have anything, any new business, old business that we need to discuss that was not talked about tonight? Well, our next meeting then will be September 14th. By then, hopefully all the other stuff has been done. I might even have a date for the start on the roof work by that time. And probably we'll have stuff at Vanguard by that time. So that'll be exciting. And the one thing on the agenda will, of course, be the proposal, the draft of the proposal. So if I have nothing else, then I move that yes.
You need to find out when they'll mow the lawn so those signs can be taken off the lawn.
Oh, very good point. I will find out from Craig when you're going to mow the lawn, and I will CC you, Sarah. How's that going to work? I'll CC Sarah, the Ashland Library, on it, and that way that the signs can come down. Okay.
Yep, that sounds good.
I can send that. I'll probably send that email out right after this meeting ends, because I'll forget. And then that way it's, that's been sent out, and I'll just tell Craig just to alert you. I don't necessarily need to know when he's going to mow, but just to alert you when he plans to mow. Give you maybe 48 hours notice, since you guys are only there Tuesdays and Thursdays. 48 would probably be better than 24. Okay, great. Well, if there is nothing else, then I move that we end this meeting. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Very good. All in favor: Walter Durack,
Aye.
David Toth,
Aye.
Lisa Rollins,
Aye.
and Amanda Lau votes in the affirmative. Very good. I'll see you all again on September 14th. I ask that the library trustees do try to attend the September 14th meeting as well. I think that we all kind of need to be together for a while. Then we won't need to be together that much anymore.